Hello, 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 hello. Come on in the room, get settled. We will start shortly. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to Astro Hour. I am Soleil. Thank you for stopping by my channel. We are going to start in just a moment, just giving everybody a second to come on in the room, get settled, and trickle in. Okay. I will turn off Leon Thomas for now, although that is a hard thing to do. Love that man. Love his music so much. Hello, I am Soleil. I'm your weekly reader. I am the founder and the facilitator of the Charm School Mentorship Program. I am also Coven Mother of Vision of Dawn Tour, and I'm a dope bitch straight up out of Oakland. Hello, hello. It has been a busy week, hasn't it? Anyone else feel like they went to bed on Sunday and woke up and it was Thursday? I feel that way. It was a very, very busy week. We are here for Astro Hour. So last week, I typically don't do Astro Hour back to back like this. I typically will do Astro Hour, then a happy hour, and rotate between the two. But as I mentioned last week in Astro Hour, this weekend, this time between May 16th and May 19th, we have four planets making some big shifts. A lot of energy is moving right now. And last week I made it a point to talk about the new moon in Taurus, which is going to be happening this Saturday, the 16th, and Mars moving into Taurus, which happens on, if I'm remembering correctly, the 18th. Today I want to talk about the other two planets that are going to be shifting during that 3-day period, and that is Mercury and Venus, okay? If any of you who are watching either live or in the replay have ever gotten any astrological work done from me, if you've gotten a natal chart in particular, you've heard me say that Venus and Mercury are both equally important when trying to build relationships, when working on your love journey, right? Because Venus is love, it's luxury, it's value, how we want to be valued, how we want to be nurtured, right? That's what our Venus is going to tell us. And Mercury is the planet of intellect and communication. And you literally cannot have a relationship without communication. So you may be thinking, okay, it's not a moon, so it's not. I'm not being shady. I know that some people, when it comes to spirituality, for whatever reason, they only want to focus on the moon. They don't care what's going on with the other planets. I think that's weird, but I think that especially if you are somebody who's working on your love journey, if you're somebody who is working on reconciling certain relationships in your life, it's important to think about both your Venus and your Mercury. So the fact that both of them are transiting or shifting their position within the same weekend, I think is really important to look at and take note of. A couple of you have entered the room. Please take a moment to say hi. Let me know who's here. Let me know who I'm talking to. I like for these sessions to be interactive. Okay, so I don't want us to be here all night. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with the overview of what we need to be mindful of when Venus is in Cancer. So on May 19th, Venus is going to shift into Cancer, okay? I should have started with Mercury. You know what? There's enough time for me to pivot, so let me hold off on Venus. I'm going to start with Mercury because the Mercury transit is happening first, okay? Hey, Adelaida, thank you so much for joining. It's good to see you. So on May 17th, going until June 1st, we are going to have Mercury in Gemini. Mercury is going to be in Gemini. And this is a good thing because the ruling planet of Gemini is Mercury. So that means Mercury is returning home. Mercury is exalted in Gemini. When a planet is exalted in a sign, it means it's happy there, it's at home. It wants to be there, okay? Forgive me, I've been talking all day and my whistle is dry, so just give me a moment to wet my whistle. Spirits have been nice to me. I've been busy. But yeah, it's going to enter Gemini on May 17th and it's going to remain there until the 1st, right? This is one of the strongest placements astrologically. Communication is going to speed up. Your curiosity is going to increase. That is something that Geminis are very much known for. Their intellectual curiosity, their ability to explore and have adventures in the mind by going through new topics, right? People are also going to become mentally restless, opinionated, and expressive sometimes at the wrong time. So that is something to be mindful of. When Mercury is in Gemini, this is a time for us to really think about our communication. Are we using communication to connect with other people, or are we using communication to engage in gossip, right? Mercury in Gemini, especially when there's a Venus Cancer transit going on, this is a really important time to think about whether or not our communication is causing division through gossip culture or building connection, right? Through prioritizing community. That's important. Are we using language to manipulate? Are we suffering from information overload, right? Are we using our storytelling to share wisdom and build bridges, or are we using our storytelling to lie? Those are all things that are really important for us to be mindful of when we are dealing with Mercury in Gemini. Thank you so much, Omo Moare. That's sweet of you. I appreciate it. And enjoy class. I don't know what you're learning, but I hope you have an amazing class. So let's start with thinking about what Mercury rules, because a lot of what Mercury rules is the same thing that Gemini rules, right? Mercury rules communication. It's literally known as the planet of communication. So whenever we're dealing with Mercury, we're dealing with how we think. We're dealing with speech. We're dealing with technology, social media, gossip, transportation, because your words carry weight and they will get you entree into spaces that you typically wouldn't have access to, right? Mercury also deals with perception. That's why when we think about the swords in tarot, we think about the planet Mercury, because it's a very mercurial suit, right? Then we have Gemini. Gemini is fast moving. It is curious. It's adaptable. Geminis are known for being very witty. They're observant, mentally restless, and they have a naturally dualistic nature. That's why people say that Geminis are two-faced. And when they are debilitated, when they're broken, they are. And we're going to talk about that, okay? An aligned Gemini, one of the most beautiful energies to have in your circle. But a Gemini that is in conflict with themselves, yeah, that dualistic nature can show up in, a not great way. But these are all things to think about. So again, Mercury is comfortable in Gemini. It wants to be there. It's at home. Hey, Aja, good to see you. Thank you for joining. So when Mercury is in Gemini, it's a time for information, right? But you want to make sure that it's information rooted in wisdom. One of the things that people say about Gemini, again, because they are so curious and they move quickly, they can leave very smart, but sometimes their intellect is surface level, right? They like to explore a variety of things, but nothing very deeply. That's why they're understood as a master, or jack of all trades and a master of none, right? So when Mercury is in Gemini, you want to make sure that the information you're gathering is rooted in wisdom, and that it's not just to keep you busy. It's not just to distract you. It's not just to increase the speed. That's, again, why you want to be mindful of gossip when Mercury is in Gemini and your relationship to gossip, right? the energy of Mercury is going to be amplified. And it's going to feel like everybody around you has something to say or has an opinion. Now, again, going back to that surface level curiosity of Gemini, typically it may not bother you that everybody has an opinion and feels so expressive. But if you feel that people are having opinions about things that they don't know about, that will irritate you. So be mindful of that, okay? Some of the main themes that are going to be happening during this 2-week period is that communication is going to feel really, really rapid, right? Pay attention to the amount of text messages you're receiving, the emails you're getting, the amount of phone calls you receive. It's going to feel like information is picking up and that it's very speedy. It's going to feel like you're having nonstop conversations. It's going to feel, and so again, if you are an introvert, if you are a water sign, right, be mindful because you will feel overwhelmed because it's going to feel like you're talking over and over again about the same things. Geminis can be very, very chatty when they are comfortable and when they're safe, right? So that's something to be aware of. You may feel people pulling you to engage in gossip or to spread rumors. You may notice an increase in your social media activity. So if you're already anxious from social media, this may be a good time to take a social media fast. But on the bright side, multitasking is easier. Again, Geminis are adaptable. They love to pick up multiple things. You also may notice that your thinking is a lot more quick and sharp, right? But if you are anxious, if you are unaligned, and don't laugh when I say this, if you are dehydrated, let's be real, if you're dehydrated, that quick thinking can very easily transition into a nervousness, okay? So again, Gemini is an air sign. It's really easy to get lost in the mind. Make sure you're also taking good care of yourself, specifically with hydration, okay? People are going to talk faster during this time. Try to be deliberate and make them slow down anyway. Your attention span is going to feel short, again, because of the amount of information that's coming in. Do the work to be grounded so that you can combat that, right? This is a difficult aspect of when Mercury is in Gemini, and it goes back to that opinionated nature, but it's slightly different. Sometimes you're going to be around people that feel like they're an expert. Again, even though they haven't researched topics very well, just be careful about that. Be mindful about that. Watch your temper when confronted with that, right? But the main thing when Mercury is in Gemini is that information is going to be spreading very, very, very quickly. It's going to feel like information is moving very fast. And again, that's because Gemini is very quick and Mercury is about the sharpness of the mind. Hey, Nicole, good to see you. Hey, Sierra, thank you for stopping by. So Mercury and Gemini can be a time of increased brilliance, right? You're thinking, you're sharing ideas, you're taking in information, but it can also create a lot of confusion, especially if you are in environments where there's too much noise or too many opinions, right? Be mindful of doom scrolling while Mercury is in Gemini. Again, because you want to make sure that the wisdom and the information you're gathering under this transit is going to bring you closer to brilliance. You don't want to make sure you're not taking in, especially now that we are in the age of AI slop, you want to be very careful about making sure that you're not taking in misinformation, okay? Be careful about viral manipulation. Don't be surprised if you're fooled by AI while Mercury is in Gemini. If that happens to you, ask yourself why and figure out what you can do to strengthen your media literacy, right? This is also a time to be careful about performative intelligence. Again, going back to what I said about how people are going to be presenting themselves as experts, even though they don't know a thing. Be careful that you yourself are not engaging in performative intelligence, and make sure you keep your distance from people who engage in performative intelligence. I had a friend, an ex-friend. If you guys have ever, I need to do I haven't done a podcast episode in like 3 years. But back when I was doing my podcast, I used to talk about this woman who was in my life that I called single black female. She was a fire sign. And she used to do that, engage in performative intelligence. She would say things, and she admitted it because she was a fucking narcissist. She admitted, like, there are times where I don't know something, but because people treat me like I know it, I'll just make shit up. And they believe me. There are people that are like that. There are people that, because they like the attention of performativity, will make up things. Mercury is about the mind. It's about how you process information, but it's not a time when Mercury is in Gemini to disconnect from your intuition. You want to be tapped into your intuition so that you make sure that you're not taking in false information. This is not a time to get wrapped up in doom scrolling. Don't sit around and gossip. I don't care how juicy it is. Be mindful of gossip, okay? I remember your podcast and her. Yeah. I don't regret anything I said about her, but I did go in hard on her in the podcast. No regrets, though. Everything I said was truth. So this is a time where discernment, spiritual discernment, marrying spiritual discernment with your communication is important. That's one of the major lessons when Mercury is in Gemini. How can you be in this energy of adaptability, of curiosity, while making sure that you're not disconnected from spirit and that you're not being fooled or fooling other people, right? That's really important. You can, during this time, it's really easy to get confused by half-truths, right? So people who are only telling you part of information in order to manipulate you. It can be really easy to, my phone's doing a weird thing, sorry. Be mindful of people who are also engaging in contradictory behavior when Mercury is in Gemini. That's another thing to be mindful of, right? That dualistic nature, that accusation that Geminis can be two-faced at times. If somebody is engaging in contradictory behavior, this is your time to, in your honesty, in your authenticity, lean into communication and ask more questions to figure out what's going on. Because typically when Geminis behave that way, it's because they're hiding something. They're either hiding something or they're fearful they're going to lose a thing, right? So ask questions. Everybody talking doesn't mean that everybody has wisdom, right? We're in this really interesting time, and we are overdue for a happy hour segment. I want to talk about Cheyenne Bryant so bad. She talks like a manipulator. If you listen to her, she talks like a predator. She talks like a predatory man. Anyway, we'll talk about her next week when we do happy hour. But it's really important to make sure, again, if you're going to be talking, if you're going to be researching, if you're going to be engaging in the exchanging of words and information, you want to make sure that it's rooted in the seeking of wisdom. That's the only reason why I keep bringing up gossip, right? We know that gossip is low vibrational. We know gossip is low vibrational hex work. It is, whether people want to call it that or not. So there is no wisdom in gossip. It's solely distraction, right? It's the same thing. It's like eating a bunch of candy. There's no nourishment there. But people will gossip under the guise of sharing information. So that's why it's important to be mindful of it when Mercury is in Gemini, right? Again, just because somebody's talking doesn't mean they're wise or that they're sharing wisdom. So making sure that when you are communicating, when you are changing knowledge, that you're doing it to strengthen the situation, right? So some things to ask yourself. Where are you feeling misinformed, right? That's a good question to ask yourself when Mercury is in Gemini. Where are you feeling like you're overstimulated? Again, that Gemini tendency to want to pick up everything and explore everything can lead to you feeling emotionally and intellectually stretched thin. So if you're feeling overstimulated, that's something to pay attention to. In your life, are people communicating loudly or clearly? Because those are two very different things. And you guys know how I feel about people who want to be the loudest in the room. Just because you're the loudest doesn't mean that you're right. Doesn't mean that you're articulating yourself better. So who is being boisterous to take up space, and whose wisdom is actually rooted in something, and it's being delivered with clarity? Those are things to consider when Mercury is in Gemini. How do you know when someone is manipulating you through language? And do you speak to connect, or do you speak to dominate? We've all been in arguments with people where it's really, really clear that it doesn't matter what we say or how we say it. They're not trying to hear us. They just want to dominate us. You can use every therapeutic strategy, every coaching strategy. You can remind them like, hey, and I've done this with friends before, people that I thought were friends, where they're getting vicious, and I say to them, hey, you're being mean. And I encourage you, it's a vulnerable strategy, but I encourage you guys to use that as a strategy. If you're talking to someone and you can tell that it's starting to go into the territory of verbal abuse or argument, name that. Name that. That will reveal to you how that person feels about you. If they pause and they realize that they're going too far, they're going to course correct and they're going to try to connect with you. But if it's a person that just wants to hurt or dominate you, they're going to poke and prod at you. Oh, I'm being mean, really? Like, they're going to do stuff like that, right? So I encourage you, that's just a little test you guys can use, a little thing to test out as a barometer when you're getting into hot water with somebody, whether or not it's safe to continue that conversation or if they've already made a decision to not hear you. But again, going back to Mercury in Gemini, why am I talking about this? Because there's a spiritual power to the tongue. There's a spiritual power to the tongue. And when we understand our Mercury placement and we understand the planet Mercury, that is a lesson that we get. Talking for the sake of just speaking to dominate, that's not spiritual. That's not healthy, right? So you want to understand when you're speaking life, when you're making connections, and when you are speaking destruction into a situation. And if you use this transit accurately in terms of your own journey, you'll be able to check yourself and catch yourself about not only when you engage in that, but who are the people that do that to you in your life, right? Because a lot of us have people who don't know how to talk to folks around us. And we minimize it as, oh, that's just them. And it is not until they go too far, or it's not until they hit a particular trigger, that we want to do something about it. Mercury in Gemini is encouraging us to evaluate it while things are safe and to move accordingly, to actually use that wisdom to protect ourselves, right? I also think it's really important to think about how we use gossip as an energetic contaminant. How many of you guys, there's a thing that happens in friendships, right? And I've experienced this before, where you have a friend and then your friend has a friend. That person is not a mutual friend of y'all's. That's literally your friend's friend, right? And either you guys go out or there's a party, something happens socially where you end up having to be around your friend's friend, right? And your friend's friend is being really weird to you. They're being really fucked up, saying a whole bunch of underhanded shit. They're like, their vibe is just really fucking off. And you can tell by looking at the friend, there was a conversation had. There was a conversation had. And more than likely, that friend of the friend is being nasty to you because they think they're showing up for your friend. That's an example of how gossip functions as an energetic contaminant. There's some of you all walking around with beefs with other people because you sat around and gossiped about somebody, not stopping to think about the fact that the person who's gossiping with you has probably talked about you when you weren't in the room. Think about how many people you've brushed off, you've dismissed based off of gossip. Think about the places in life you won't go and visit based off of gossip. Gossip is an energetic contaminant. It does not build communities. It only destroys them. right? And when Mercury is in Gemini, we are asked to really think about how gossip as an energetic contaminant shows up in our world, okay? Some people will cast confusion through language, the same way that others will use language to build connections and build community, right? So these are all things to be mindful of. This is something that you really got to consider when Mercury is in Gemini. And Mercury's going to be in Gemini from, I was about to say January, from May 17th to June 1st, okay? Be careful of your racing thoughts. If you're hit with insomnia, don't be surprised. That does happen when Mercury is in Gemini, because Gemini is known for being restless, right? Think about the energy of a teenager. Go, 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 busy, busy, busy. That busybody energy, right? That curious energy. Your focus may be scattered. So if that's happening to you, figure out a way to ground through journaling, through connecting to the earth. But those are all things that happen when Gemini is, or Venus is in Gemini, okay? If you are a person that struggles with sitting in silence, that's something to review at this time as well, right? Ways that you can work with the energy of Mercury and Gemini. Take time to verify information, right? Again, information is going to be coming to you really, really quickly. A lot of it's going to be false. So slowing down and verifying what is said to you, the information that comes to you, is going to be extremely important while Mercury is in Gemini, okay? So there's a need to slow down communication. Even though Gemini is fast and your instinct is going to want to make you move quickly, you should do the opposite and slow your communications down so that you have opportunity to think before you speak, so that you have opportunity to speak from wisdom, speak from a place of building connections rather than destroying them, okay? It's also a good time to journal your thoughts before sharing them. Protect your attention span. So decrease the amount of time you spend on social media. Decrease the amount of time you spend using technology. Try to avoid unnecessary arguments online, okay? Because what happens on the internet lives forever. So be careful about that, right? This is a great time for teaching, for writing. If you're interested in learning a new subject, podcasting, I forgot I even had that on the list. I was just talking about my podcast. But these are all good things to spend your time on. Studying divination as well. These are all good things to spend your time on when Mercury is in Gemini. This is a placement that is meant to remind us that intelligence is not just about how quickly you think. It's not about speed, right? It's about what you choose to give your attention to. That's really important. That's the thing that separates the fool from the sage. The sage knows what's to focus on, right? Even when you look at the tarot cards, the fool is just, like staring at everything. They're distracted. The hermit, the sage, got that lamp and is focused on what's important and what's right in front of them, right? So those are some things to really consider while Mercury is in Gemini. We got to really monitor what we consume mentally. We got to work on protecting our mental peace. We got to practice intentional speech, right? Because again, that restlessness, Gemini wants to move quick. But if you move too quickly, you can say things you don't mean. You can spread misinformation. You can get wrapped up in a snap decision or spread gossip without knowing it. And when we speak intentionally, we can avoid those things, right? The main gift that Mercury and Gemini gives us is an opportunity to be really discerning and intentional about information. Not only the information we create and share, but the information we take in. So that's Mercury and Gemini, okay? Now let's talk about Venus and Cancer. This makes so much sense with my energy lately. Yeah. That could probably be the results of, especially if you have any Gemini placements, Sierra, isn't your sun in Cancer? I thought your sun was in Cancer. Um, I could be misremembering because it's been a while since I've done natal chart work with you, but for whatever reason, I thought you were a Cancer. But yes, if you have Gemini placed, I'm going to be mindful of this placement because my Venus is in Gemini, right? And I want to make sure that I'm being very deliberate about how I communicate with the people that I love. But now let's talk about Venus. Venus is going to be in Cancer from May 19th through June 13th. May 19th through June 13th. So remember, I said that May 16th through the 19th, 4 different planets are shifting. So there's like a lot of juicy movement happening during this time. Now, Venus is going to enter Cancer, and this shifts, this is going to be shifting the relationship energy away from mental stimulation and towards emotional intimacy, right? Because right now, Venus is in Gemini. And again, Gemini is adaptable, it's fast, it's quick, it thinks a lot. So once Venus enters Cancer, it's going to be much more loving, much more protective, much more vulnerable, a lot more domestic, right? We're moving out of Venus energy or out of Gemini energy, right? And this is where people were very stimulated, conversational, craving variety in their love relationships. Again, not just romantic, it could be friendships, craving a lot of variety because, again, Geminis love variety. And we're going into Cancer, which is much more emotional, much more rooted in safety and rooted in comfort, right? I remember because we bonded over that. We bonded over Venus and Gemini. Okay, I remember. Thank you. So let's talk about Venus a little bit. And most of you should know, I'm just going over this for review. But when we deal with the planet Venus, we are dealing with the themes of love. We're dealing with attraction. Venus is money. It's money. And I tell you guys all the time, everybody want to jump straight to Jupiter for money, but you gotta start with Venus in your natal chart. Venus deals with money. It also deals with beauty. It's literally the planet of beauty and luxury. Venus is also going to deal with pleasure. It's a feminine planet. Everything that I just mentioned is feminine, right? Money, love, attraction, but it's also the planet of self-worth because Venus is also value. And you can't talk about value without talking about your self-worth, right? So those are all things related to the planet Venus. Now, when we're dealing with the energy of Cancer, Cancer is also a feminine energy. So you have feminine in double measure with Venus in Cancer, okay? And when we deal with Cancer, we are dealing with emotions, deep feelings, anything related to water, the capacity to nurture. Cancers have a really good ability to hold memory, to remember birthdays, to remember traditions, right? So Cancer has to deal with not just memory, but memory related to the family and to domesticity, right? So you're going to feel a connection to your family during this time. You're going to feel deeply sensitive. Ancestral memories are going to come up for you quite a bit, right? Because Cancer is also related to the history of the maternal or the history of the mother, right? Don't be surprised if your intuition is also sharper because Cancers are extremely intuitive. When Venus is in Cancer, it asks us whether our relationships feel emotionally safe or they are just emotionally consuming, right? So whereas Gemini is asking you to think about, okay, are you communicating in a way that creates wisdom and connection that builds bridges, right? Because healthy Gemini energy, healthy Mercurial energy is going to help you connect with people, right? So we have that Mercury in Gemini that's about connection and the wisdom and the discernment that it takes to build community. We have Venus in Cancer also asking us, okay, but are you safe? Is your community safe? Or is it just emotionally consuming? Do you feel safe to ask questions and connect and to dig deeper? Or do you feel like you have to perform in a particular way so that you can be safe or you don't get your head bitten off? These are all Venus in Cancer questions. Do you feel valued? Do you feel safe? Okay. So you may notice that within the weeks between May 19th and June 13th, that the people around you are becoming much more emotional. They're also very nostalgic, right? You're going to be hit with waves of nostalgia, which I think is really interesting because it's also graduation season. So it lines up perfectly, right? People are going to be much more protective, especially the maternal figures in your life, the people who give maternal nurturing. And I want to be clear about maternal nurturing because some of us have men in our lives or, non-binary people who are doing a lot of mothering. But the people who are very nurturing and maternal in your life are going to be very, very present at this time, right? People around you who love you are also going to be very affectionate, also a little sensitive, right? But a downside of that is don't be surprised if people start getting clingy. And when people start getting clingy, you got to dip back into that Mercury, right? And have conversation about it. But these are all things that'll show up when Venus is in Cancer. And this is because during this transit, people crave a lot of emotional reassurance, especially people who are taking any kind of big risks or leaps during this time in their life. They want the people who they feel safe around, who love them, to really bring them emotional reassurance, right? The affection you receive in your life is going to feel a lot softer and more nurturing. Nostalgia is going to increase, so you're going to want to engage in activities that soothe those memories, or you're going to want to sit around and go over old photographs and share memories with the people that you love. People are going to become more attached to family and memories, and emotional intimacy is going to matter to you much more than excitement, which is a very sharp contrast to when Venus was in Gemini, right? Venus in Gemini is all about excitement. It's all about what are you doing for me right now? It's a very Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately kind of energy. Venus in Gemini. That's why it's a hard placement to have. Don't get me started. I love everything in my chart, but my Venus in Gemini is the thing I struggle with the most. Okay. But again, that shift to intimacy rather than excitement means that people are going to really want to do a lot of memory making during this time, which again is, when I think about it, it makes so much sense that this transit is happening during graduation season. I love it. God is so perfect. I just want to say that. Like, the more I study astrology, the more I feel like God is just so perfect. They knew what they were doing. But again, so there's some things to be mindful of. People may start prioritizing peace over chemistry, right? So again, those environments where you are used to being emotionally drained and you convince yourself that it's normal, you're not going to have the time to put up with that while Venus is in Cancer, because you're going to care much more about your peace and about how you feel. OMG, this is literally leading into my question for tonight, because I've been you're not doing it for me. Go over your chart. See what's happening with your Venus right now. Venus and Gemini, that makes sense. But yeah, you're going to find yourself prioritizing peace over chemistry. So don't be surprised if you turn down going to events where you're going to be triggered, or where it's going to be too much for you, right? Don't be surprised if people who find peace in you start reaching out to you a little bit more, right? There are some of us in the world where people get really attached because we just vibrate in a way that brings peace and a chillness into folks' life, right? Let's see what else. You can also feel like there's a longing for genuine care. This may also come up particularly with the healers and the caregivers, all of those who are in caring professions. all of my lawyers, doctors, therapists, um, even teachers, right? You're going to feel a need to receive genuine care. So again, use the bravery of your Mercury and Gemini to ask for your needs to be met, because that is a Cancerian struggle. Cancers will have a need to be taken care of, but they have such a fear of being seen as needy, and they will just sit there and brood and not get their needs met. So again, use this opportune time of having this Mercury in Gemini transit at the same time where Venus is in Cancer. Use that to strengthen yourself, to ask yourself for what you need and what you want, okay? Folks can also reconnect with old lovers and friends during this time because Cancer is very sentimental. Be careful about that shit. Be careful. I just said a couple weeks ago not to do sequels. So be careful about that, right? Make sure that if you're doing it, it's happening in a safe and a healthy way. Don't try to reconnect with people who've harmed you in the past. Okay? Be mindful of that. But the main thing is that people want to feel at home, right? And again, it's in those memories, in the sharing of those traditions that we feel at home. So not only are you going to feel nostalgic, not only are you going to want to be around people who bring you peace, but you may want to be at home more, right? You will want to nest, want to cook, want to clean your house, because your home is going to feel like an emotional retreat when Venus is in Cancer, okay? Venus in Cancer is less about being impressed, and it's about feeling protected. Stability and safety and comfort are extremely important to Cancers, right? So this is a really good time for home blessings, emotional healing work, healing any maternal wounds, right? And when I say maternal wounds, I don't mean, we hear maternal wounds and we think that our mothers had to have done something to us. It's not that simple. You can have a maternal wound because you lost a parent or you had a parent that was incarcerated, right? If you have those kind of lived experience, using Venus in Cancer to really negotiate and heal that, right? Have a great relationship with your mother, but what if she's ill, dealing with chronic illness, right? That's a maternal wound. It doesn't mean that your mother did something negative to you. That it could mean that, but it doesn't always mean that. It just means that you have a wound related to your maternal figure. So if you have that present in your life, this is a good time to do that work. This is also a great time to do spiritual protection around the house, right? We should be doing this regularly anyway, but it's going to hit in a really particular way when Venus is in Cancer, because Cancer is the mother and it deals with domesticity, which is the home, right? Now, again, this is Venus, it's love, so love and relationships is going to come up, and this is a time to be aware of emotional discernment, right? This is a transit that can make people really emotionally clingy. And whether you are the clinger or the person, the clingy, the person that's being clung to, right? If this is coming up, this is something that needs to be looked into and explored more in terms of why it's happening while Venus is in Cancer, okay? Sometimes, especially if you deal with people pleasing, you can be overly accommodating while Venus is in Cancer because of that nurturing mother energy rising to the surface. Be careful about both of those things, because both of those things can easily lead into, especially if you're hit with a wave of nostalgia, it can trigger and set up nostalgia for unhealthy relationships from the past. I almost always see people go back to old relationships or old friendships when Venus is in Cancer. It rarely ends well once the transit is over. So try to slow down and be mindful if you find that happening to you, okay? Another thing that happens is that people can become very vulnerable to manipulation when Venus is in Cancer. Cancers struggle more than any other zodiac sign with people pleasing. And people pleasers can be easily manipulated because they're more focused on making another person happy than they are protecting themselves. Whether it's conscious or subconscious, that's what happens when you are a people pleaser. You are more focused on pleasing people than you are your own safety. And so you got to be careful if that is a struggle that you have when Venus is in Cancer, okay? Another thing that happens when Venus is in Cancer is that whether it is romantically, whether it's a job or a friendship, people can find themselves becoming attracted to potential more than they are reality, right? Water signs struggle with this in general, but it ends up being really, really bad when Venus is in Cancer. So be careful, right? And remember that emotional familiarity is not always emotional health. You're hit with waves of nostalgia that are making you ignore the things that made you leave a situation in the first place. So it's going to be really important to slow down and remember the bigger scope of a thing so that you can see beyond the nostalgia, okay? So Venus in Cancer teaches us about softness with boundaries. It also teaches us about the significance of emotional reciprocity. And that's why those relationships where you are clingy or people cling to you are kind of amplified during this period, because you're supposed to be questioning and asking why this happens, right? Venus in Cancer, if you use it correctly, can really help you figure out how to nurture without being self-sacrificial, right? I think about the Queen of Cups. That is her literal journey as a mother, figuring out how to make sure that her needs are met, that her cup is full, so that she's not giving from her drops, right? That's a very Venus in Cancer lesson. How do I nurture without giving all of myself away, right? It also is here to teach you that vulnerability doesn't mean divorcing yourself of discernment, right? You can be vulnerable, but be discerning. Everybody's not safe to be vulnerable with. Every environment is not safe for vulnerability, right? So rather than trying to force that in environments where it's completely unsafe, find the environments where it is. That's what Venus in Cancer is there to teach us, right? Last thing I want to say about Venus in Cancer, that it's also a great time. I mentioned mother wounds and mother healing, but ancestral patterns and inner child healing is good during this time as well, right? And that's because Cancer is the mother, Cancer is ancestry, Cancer is emotional memory and lineage, right? It's home and belonging. And these are all things that make the energy very right to do your inner child work, right? Because the presence of that maternal memory is going to make you feel much more safe, right? Some deep reflection questions that you can ask yourself at this time is, what did your family teach you about love? Did you learn in childhood that love requires suffering? And how do you let go of that message in adulthood, right? Did you become hyper independent because vulnerability felt unsafe? And if so, where were your emotional needs ignored in childhood? Those are all some things we can be asking ourselves, right? And why are we asking ourselves this? Why are we doing our inner child healing during Venus in Cancer? Well, Venus is dating, Cancer is the mother. A lot of us date based off of ideas we picked up in childhood. So if you want a healthy relationship, you have to heal your inner child. Because some of us are still dating from survival mode and calling it love. That's why we cling. Or we let people cling to us, right? So doing that inner child work will really, really help you. I lied, one more thing, because I did say that Venus and Cancer is about money. Cancers are amazing with saving, by the way. Cancer, Virgo, Capricorn. Those are my three, the three best savers in the zodiac. I know my nails are broken. I have my appointment on Saturday. Don't judge me. I talk with my hands too much to be out here with broken nails. But when Venus is in Cancer, we got to think about our money too, right? Because if our emotions are not dealt with, if we feel like there's an emptiness there, we can fuck up our money, right? So a lot of times when Venus is in Cancer, people will do a bunch of emotional spending. They will comfort shop. They will waste money nesting on home repairs when they just did home repairs, right? If you can use this time to become more protective over your resources and to use that Cancerian craving of financial security, you can use this to actually set up some really good, healthy habits around money and saving to combat that tendency to want to comfort shop or overspend, okay? So really looking at what happens to your financial health or your financial decisions when you are emotionally triggered is a really good use for Venus in Cancer, okay? Now, when it comes to the prosperity angle, this is also a good time. Again, I mentioned home blessings, but doing prosperity work tied to family stability, right? There are times where we do prosperity work for us, and there's time where we do prosperity work for the bloodline. This is a time to do prosperity work for the bloodline, okay? This is also a great time to do abundance rituals involving water or water herbs, right? Because that's going to nurture your money. It's going to help you save, right? I think we always want to run to fire when we're doing prosperity work because we're trying to spark some shit and make some things come up. Use the Cancerian and the Venusian energy to really bring protections and safety over your finances, okay? But these are all some things that we should really consider while Venus is in Cancer. Venus, when it's in Cancer, it's here to remind us that love should feel nurturing, it should feel peaceful, and it should feel emotionally safe. It should never be confusing. It should not be draining. It should not be unstable or threatening. So if you, during this time, realize that certain love or certain relationships in your life are those things, this is a time to really heal that and get you back to safety. Use the energy of the mother, use the energy of Cancer to really bring you to emotional protection and safety, okay? So that is what I have to say about Venus in Cancer. I'm now at the end of the stream. I'm now at the end of the description. If anyone would like a Venus in Cancer reading or a Mercury in Cancer reading, I'm more than happy to give those at this time. Just go ahead and send your love offering either to my Cash App or my PayPal, both of which are scrolling below. I know that, Sierra, you did mention that you had a specific question tonight. So, not Siri, I said Sierra. Phone came on. So, but if you do have a specific question or a general question, I'm more than happy to answer that as well. Just go ahead and send your love offerings. And then I'll answer questions as people mention in the comments. While people are sending their love offerings or submitting their questions, I'll go ahead and give you all updates for some of the things that are going on right now. We are in the last 4 days of the Taurus season sale. The sale ends March 19th at midnight. If you would like to book a private reading with me, if you would like to purchase classes, purchase amulets, purchase body wash, anything of that nature, you can receive 20% off of any order over $65 from my website when you use the code Taurus at checkout, TAURUS, okay? So there's 4 more days left on that. The Sacred Alignment Retreat will be happening in San Diego, California, June 17th through the 19th. If you're interested in learning more information about that, click the link on the WhatsApp group below so that you can join the intake group and get more information. What else? Is that it? Oh, my Patreon. We just had a class last night about candle reading for Candle Magic. That class will be uploaded tomorrow morning. If you would like to join my Patreon so that way you can participate in classes every month, receive exclusive readings, etc., etc. The link to my Patreon is also below. Chicken foot amulets are still on sale. They're discounted for $75 this month. So if you would like to purchase one, go ahead and purchase it. They're going to be $75 until June 1st. Every amulet comes with a 10-minute consultation. So you will get a 10-minute phone call from me, just so that I can talk to you about what your needs are, and what your design preferences are before I make it. Okay. I believe that's everything at this point. I don't see no one's submitting offerings or questions. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the evening. Let me just double check my Cash App to make sure, because sometimes people will just send and not say they sent. No. Okay, that's totally fine. So nobody has questions. Nobody wants a Venus in Cancer reading or a Mercury in Gemini reading. That's totally fine. If that Sunday, if people change their mind, it will be available then. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the evening. I want everybody to have an amazing night. Go back and watch last week's Astro Hour too, so that way you can be prepared for the new moon, new moon and Mars that are both transitioning into Taurus. Again, May 16th through the 19th, 4 different planets are moving. A lot is going on. I just wanted to make sure that everybody feels like they are equipped and that they are ready for what's happening, what's coming along. Next week, we're going back to happy hour because, goddamn it, I am ready to talk about Cheyenne Bryant. We got to talk about Cheyenne Bryant. We just have to. Sierra, give me 1 second. Okay. Hey, La Balin, did you just get here? La Balin, were you able to catch part of the live? Sierra, go ahead and type out your question, and then I'll pull the cards for you when you have a second. So Sierra does have a question for me. If there's anyone else who has a question, go ahead and submit it. You want to get it on Monday? Okay, that's totally fine. On Sunday, if you can tune in on Sunday when I do the weekly energy reading, just circle back then. No, it's fine. It's all right that you're busy. People got lives. So thank you for being able, everyone who was able to tune in tonight, thank you so much for being able to tune in tonight. Make sure you share this far and wide. I would really, really, really love to get to 500 subscribers before the month is over. Yeah, because I can do different things with my channel once I'm at 500. So definitely grateful for everybody who's been coming back in terms of returning viewers. But if you could do me a solid and share the channel, that would help tremendously. I'll be back on Sunday, 7:30 p.m. EST for the weekly energy reading. I will see you guys then. If you want to speak to me one-on-one, you can book at my website, soleilconjureshop.com, or you can text me at my business number, 404-654-3246. Oh, Sierra, okay. Sierra, are you sure you don't want your reading right now? Girl. All right. I'm confused because you just sent your offering, but you said you were busy. The chat is lagging. Okay. I was about to dip out, but I'm gonna hold on. Sierra, please try to put your question in when you get the chance, Sierra, so that way I can answer your question before we part ways tonight. So while Sierra's putting her question in the comments, Again, if there's anybody else that would like either a Venus in Cancer reading or a Mercury in Cancer reading, just let me know. Is anybody going to see Is God Is tomorrow? Is it just me? I already have my ticket. I'm excited. I haven't been to the movies in a minute, but I'm so excited to see Is God Is. So many people that I love down are going to be in this movie. I've never seen Sterling K. Brown play a bad guy. He's always like saving the world or loving adopted children. He's always such a good person in anything that I watch him in, that I feel like people who give that energy make amazing bad guys. So I want to see. I also haven't seen Vivica in anything in a while. So I'm really excited for this movie, Is God Is. And I'll let you guys know how I feel about it when I come back on Sunday for the weekly energy reading. Sierra, honey. Okay, finally. All right. I got you. Should I move on from OG? I feel I have been patient. But this Gemini Venus energy is making its time to. Okay, I got you. Yes, I want to see the movie this weekend. I'm so excited. I'm ready to see it. It looks so good. I hope it doesn't let me down. I don't think it's gonna let me down. I don't think Sterling K. Brown is capable of doing bad work. He's Black Tom Cruise to me. Like I think it's gonna be really, really good. But let's look into what's going on with Sierra. Ancestors, angels, ascended masters, spirits that walk with me, and elevated ancestors. Should Sierra let go and end things with OG? Is it time for her to move forward from this connection with OG? Or is there doubt or some sort of outside force present? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. It's time, baby. It's time. You're the one doing all the work in this interaction. It's like you're carrying this person. And the weight of you trying to carry this person or carry this relationship is slowing you down in other areas of your life. So go ahead and give yourself permission to unload, to release, to give their energy back to them, and to move forward into this next chapter of your life unencumbered. It will also give you time to not only think more clearly, but really pour your own spiritual energy back into you, right? It'll give you time and stillness to be able to reflect properly. That happens. Some relationships keep us so energetically confused, anxious, and insecure that we can't really see our reality ourselves. We can't see how far we've come, right? And so Temperance is coming up to say that if you let this relationship go, it gives you the opportunity to not only sit in stillness, but to create some powerful results from what you observe and witness in that stillness and self-reflection. And you low-key have known for a while that you need to let this go. But again, going back to what I was saying about Venus being in Cancer, or just the nature of Cancer in general, it's like you've been oscillating between, I need to cut this motherfucker off, but it started so good. And like your nostalgia is the only thing that's holding you here, right? But what I see here is that you need to let it go. You need to let it go. It's draining you. And that is energy that you can be pouring back into yourself. I learned a lot from this situation. And you know what? If you learned a lot, then it wasn't, I think we do this thing as women where if a relationship doesn't end in a specific type of commitment, we want to believe that it was a waste or that we waste our whatever toxic shit we say. If you learn something, that's a win. If you feel like you learned something, that is a win. My low, I show up pretty early. I should have been asked you for clarity. If you're low, I show up, then you didn't need to ask me anything because I'm pretty sure they showed up for a reason, right? So, but thank you so much for trusting me and for asking a question. To everyone else, I will see you on Sunday. I will be back here Sunday at 7:30 p.m. EST for the weekly energy reading. And next week, we're going to take a break from happy hour. We had two astral hours in a row. So we're going to take a break from astral hour and get back to happy hour because I have things to say about the Cheyenne Bryant situation. And I'm pretty sure that all of y'all have things to say as well. Have a great day. Have an amazing weekend. I will see you all on Sunday. And until next time, take care. Bye.